Hey everybody, I figured I'd share with you a look at all four of these LEGO Marvel Avengers Infinity War BrickHeadz sets in one video, because they're small and simple, so it just makes sense. Each of these is sold separately, of course, for the standard BrickHeadz prices in your country, so let's get right into them. First up, let's take a look at Star-Lord, and comparing this to the most recent minifigure version of this character, well, the BrickHeadz one has the advantage of coming with the helmet. They don't have the helmet, as of the time of the recording of this video, in any of the Infinity War specific sets. So let me just pull this off and put a helmet from an earlier set on there so you can really see what we're going for. Yeah, there we go. Yep, that makes sense. We don't get the gold on the BrickHeadz version, but we do get a pretty nice halfway buttoned up outfit with the print on the front. That's a 1x2x2 brick, and also the printed tile piece, and you see the hair coming through, so they get a little bit of the texture there. The hands are supposed to be gloved, and he does come with two of the exact same blaster pistol piece that he comes with in minifigure form, just highlighting some of the extreme funky proportions of the BrickHeadz themselves. And look at this, he even has little rockets on the backs of his legs. That was a nice inclusion there. It's fairly simple looking from around the back. Doesn't look that good to me through most of it from around the back, but I think most of these don't. But again, I do appreciate the small inclusion of the rockets, and I like the prints on this one. Would have preferred gold rather than the dark tan here, and I do like what they did for the kind of rebreather section. That's actually a handlebar piece done in medium silver. Gamora here was the most different and, to me, the most interesting to build, to actually put together. Has some nice shaping for the hair, and also nice shaping around the back of the body to get the tails of the coat that she wears there. They use those Nexonite's shield add-on pieces, just molded in plain brown there. I like what they did with the hair pieces to get the swirls of magenta in there, and comparing that to its minifigure form, because I'll put it over on this side. You know, the minifigure only gets the little magenta swirls on the front of it, so this is definitely better than that, again with the headpiece being better. But I like how they just have some kind of movement that's suggested there. You know, it's really nice. The choice of pieces. The resolution is very, very low for BrickHeadz, but I think they did some pretty nice shaping there. I'm happy with that. Just has the single sword there, and a couple of exclusive prints for her, obviously for the under vest. You know, again, a 1x2x2 brick on the front, but also some of the metallic tattoo work. They didn't put too much of that detail in there. I feel like that's just enough, and it's appropriate for the level of detail for BrickHeadz in general. I like this one. Like I said, I enjoyed putting it together, and I think it looks pretty decent on display. Definitely recognizable immediately who it is. Now here he is, Thanos himself, and this is a pretty cool looking one, a little bit better looking than I thought it was going to be compared to the pictures. You know, looking at pictures of this, I was like, it's kind of plain, and you know, being the exact same size as all the other BrickHeadz is kind of rough, but I feel like that makes this one actually look a little bit cuter. Now notice that the hinge pieces for the arms, or are they just representing hands here? I think it's like lower arms and hands. They do include a suggestion of a thumb there, but the hinge piece there, the top hinge piece, is done in this same lavender color, which I personally haven't seen before. They may have done it in one of the Friends sets, but I didn't notice that. This one has the three printed pieces with the older standard 1x4 used for the body. It's a printed piece, or a piece that they have printed for BrickHeadz the most, and then also the, well, you know, not including the eyes, but also the 1x4 tile to just show not actual mouth detail, but just the creases in his chin. That was well chosen. And then he has the Infinity Gauntlet on, so he's got the thumb up there, it's balled up into a fist, and they have the print that shows all of the gems, all of the stones that have been placed into it. Comparing this one to its not really minifig form, doesn't really have a minifig form right now. big fig form. Again, with the head, this is what we recognize more as of the time of the recording of this video. For the movie, you know, we've seen him mostly helmet off in pre-Infinity War movie materials, you know, the trailers and, you know, little hints that we've seen before for the cinematic universe. But I feel like these are compatible enough. It's just interesting how close they are in overall size, except for, of course, the head. Around the back of this one, very, very plain. Very, very, just super plain. I think the most plain of the ones that I'm going to show you today by far. So nothing really great to look at there, but it is nice to have at least a little bit of articulation in one of these for a change. It does kind of break things up a little bit. You know, it has the 1x2 cheese slope pieces on the sides there to add some bulk to the arms, but you know, this kind of breaks that up. But I don't know, maybe you just see it as a tear in his outfit underneath the armpit, so some of his muscles are showing through under there. And then here is Iron Man, and once again we get the dark tan. Like with Star-Lord, we get the dark tan instead of gold, and that's because I guess they didn't have all of the pieces available in gold to use for this. I feel like they could have fixed that, but this actually doesn't look bad to me. From any kind of reasonable distance, it doesn't look too far off. It just looks like it's less metallic than I would like it to be, but the color, the hue is about right, and the saturation is almost right. It's a little bit desaturated, that dark tan, compared to a gold that I would have liked. The eyes are printed pieces. Again, you got the forehead kind of plate that is printed. It's got the tile up top with the arc reactor little window that is printed, and then he also has a printed 1x2 brick down there. And this one has him extending out his arm with a, I don't know, so extra large blaster, I guess, in this case, that has been deployed. And he also has the winglets, the thrusters that have been deployed. I'm assuming those are for space flight. These don't look good from the back, but I think that from most normal angles of display, they look pretty appropriate. It would have been nice to get a little bit of angle, but then again, do you really need that for a BrickHead? You know, BrickHeads are supposed to be really squared, so maybe this is even better than what I would have preferred, to have some hinges to, you know, kind of angle those back. I'm not sure. Let me know what you think about that. I think that this looks good from like the front quarter angles and forward of that. Once you start to get more towards the sides, then it looks a little bit silly, like he's got a little I don't know, like a butterfly wing you know, costume attachment on the back or something. But the figure itself, beyond that, of course you can just remove that if you want to, but the figure itself beyond that I think looks pretty good. And I do need to show you this in relation to the minifigure version, because oh man, that's a lot of thruster action there, and I need to take some of those little bits off the base so he can stand up a little bit better. He's still leaning back just a little bit, but you know, the comparison in proportions with the thrusters deployed, I mean, I think the minifigure ones are actually larger overall than the BrickHeadz ones. I do like these angles better, though. You know, there's just that kind of dynamic posing that is apparent there, whereas it's a lot more static here. Like he's just going to thrust himself forward. So yeah, just subjective thoughts about that. I think the figure itself is pretty good. I'm glad that he has the little blasts coming up from beneath his legs as well, and I think that both arms look pretty good. And I am, like I said, less disappointed by the use of dark tan here than I thought I would be. This actually looks decent on display. Kind of have to look at it twice to notice that, wait, that is really not the same, or not the right color. So these are not bad. My personal favorites are definitely Gamora and Thanos. I thought that Thanos was going to be my least favorite because of the head. I thought it was going to look kind of plain, but just overall, it's a very cute looking figure. You know, it has that real chibi style to it that's really extreme for that character. My least favorites are probably tied between Star-Lord and And this version of Iron Man, I'm actually going to put Star-Lord at the bottom of my personal list of favorites, but let me know what you think about these relative to each other. Gamora obviously gets way more pieces on a percentage basis, gives you a much better price to part ratio, of course, but you know, a lot of those pieces go into building the hair, and I'm glad they did that. I'm glad that the designers get the option to, you know, break out of a certain standard range of parts for these, and they still keep the prices the same regardless. These prints on the packages are actually pretty nice. They're pretty displayable for folks who do hold on to packages. Obviously these are out of order, but you know, those are just nicely chosen prints, and I think that if you want to keep these on a shelf, this is the way you want to display them. You know, show your actual BrickHeadz themselves to represent them, and then just show, you know, something like that. So anyway, that's it for my look at these four together, and like I said, let me know what your personal favorites are and least favorites, and if you have any thoughts about these in general. I'll talk to you again soon.